Hi guys. Recently Joe Hockey announced in the media that the key to buying a house in Australia is to get a good job. Now, I thought that I would put this video together to explain to people the truth about the Australian property bubble. In order to explain Australia's property bubble, we can't just talk about housing. There's 6 different issues at play, and if you don't understand the 6 issues, you'll never get it. So I'll first of all outline what I'll be talking about, and then I'll go into them. So the first is how the human brain works. The second is human characteristics. The third is money. The fourth is understanding systems thinking. The fifth is how the economy should work if it was healthy. And the sixth is fundamentals. So first of all, I'll talk about the human brain. The human brain is a self-patterning learning success system which seeks synergy. What does that mean? Well, basically what it means is we like to feel comfortable. When we drive to work each day, we're familiar with the road, we know where we're going, we're aware of the conditions, we feel safe. We've done it before, we feel safe. When we go on holidays and we visit a place that we've never been to before, it's a different situation. We're more alert because it's not automatic to us. We haven't done it before. This attribute to the human brain is what kept us safe over the years. We need to feel comfortable in an environment that we know, and when we're in an environment that we don't understand, we panic because this is a safety mechanism. So we've always got to remember that we're humans. We're not robots, but we do operate in a certain manner. The second, human characteristics. Humans love eating food, obviously. We love breathing oxygen, obviously. But we also love making money in our sleep, which is why often we put money into the share market and the property market, because we don't have to do anything. We just put the money in and grow rich, allegedly. So this doesn't happen in a vacuum. This is at the core of most people. Now, of course, there's some people out there who might be volunteering their work or might love doing other things that the majority of us hate. But the fact is, for the most part, humans would rather consume instead of produce. So we have to bear that in mind. The third thing, what is money? Is money this, or is it this? Well, money is actually this. It's not this. This is basically toilet paper. This is only good because it's the only thing you can pay your taxes with, unless they declare you bankrupt and they take your other assets like your cars, etc. And it's only beneficial because it's got the confidence of the population. We trust this for some bizarre reason, and so this continues to be the paradigm that we operate in today. But this is a very big problem. So let me first of all explain what is money. Money is a unit of account, it's a medium of exchange, it's portable, it's durable, it's divisible, it's fungible, and it maintains its value over time. And really, the only thing that qualifies as being money is gold and silver. Now, the financial paradigm is a very boring game if you look at history. We've had 700 paper money collapses in the last 5,000 years. 100 of those collapses have been since the end of World War II. So this has a 0% chance of not blowing up again. Whereas gold and silver has always been the go-to when this stuff blows up. So history shows us that this is going nowhere, and real money will be back in at some point. But what a lot of people don't really remember is that the way of the world today, globalization for example, is all a consequence of this paper money paradigm. If you went back to this precious metals paradigm, the world would be a very different place. It'd have less inequality, it'd be a happier place, and you wouldn't see all these ridiculous practices going on, like making goods in China and sending them on ships that use 40 million litres to bring them from Shanghai to Melbourne, 12,500 litres an hour. It's ridiculous. But you can do that with this game. You can't do it with this game. So, this brings me to the next issue, which is understanding systems thinking. So, a system, a functioning system, is the success of all of its parts. If you look at, say, a human body, if you put a bullet in the heart, you're dead. If you put a bullet in your brain, you're dead. So it only works if everything is working together. So our economy needs to be along the lines of where it used to be. Basically, the way that it should work is that the banks in Australia produce 97% of all of this paper money. The other 3% is printed by the government through deficit spending. So a healthy economy is an economy where the banks print money and loan it productively to businesses, and businesses, through entrepreneurship and innovation, produce durable goods and or services, which drives employment, and that employment drives consumption, and that consumption drives the demand. Now, in Australia, 8.1% of our economy is manufacturing. Our banks in 2015, 3/4 of their balance sheet is in consumption assets like home loans and credit cards. If you compare that to the 1980s, 3/4 of their balance sheet was in productive loans to business. So this tells you that we're over. It's just a question of when. If you look at China, China isn't making things because they're better at making things than what we are. Their currency is devalued because their government suppresses the value by buying US Treasury bills. And that has had the effect of sucking manufacturing away from the West into the East. And so instead of us working in factories, we've taken up new activities. We've got the IT boom. We're all doing service jobs. But we're only able to do those jobs so long as someone else is doing our dirty work over in China making our things. But ultimately, that's going to come to an end as well, because when you pervert a market, a free market, doing what the governments of the world do, eventually it comes to an end. And eventually we'll see manufacturing come back because, well, first of all, look at peak oil. I mean, there's only so many decades that you can keep putting containers on ships and bringing them around the world. I mean, when was the last time you saw an alternative fuel source at the petrol station? It would take a long time to build an alternative, not to mention the cost and all those sort of things. So I think we're at the end of this anyway. And even if it takes another 60 years, that's not very long. I mean, humans have been around for 200,000 years, and this whole way of life that we think is normal and we're used to and comfortable with and feel safe in really has only been around for a very short period of time. So again, our banks' balance sheets are mostly in consumption assets. 2 of our 4 banks are in the top 20 biggest banks on the planet. Now, we're a very small economy. We're 1.53 trillion per year. We're about the bottom 35th size by GDP out of the 185 countries on the planet. We shouldn't have 2 of our 4 banks in the top 20 largest banks. The reason why they appear there is because they've printed too much of this stuff. Our private debt to GDP is 130% of our economy. That is ridiculous. That's dead, finished, and gone. So we're already maxed out on our credit cards, generally speaking. We're in too much debt, and that's why we can't grow anymore. So until we have a debt forgiveness where we wash out all the toxic money by increasing the balance sheet of the government sector and paying money to the private sector to pay back their bills, until we do that, we're just going to limp along until the next crash happens, which will wipe out our superannuation, and that'll be through the next GFC. So we're at a situation now where our economy can't grow, it's too high up in debt, and that's why things are a problem. And housing has been seen as a productive loan when it's not. A productive asset is a taxi compared to your own private car. A productive asset is a hotel room compared to your bedroom at home. But because of the way human brains work, we've seen consumption assets like houses being blown up over the last 3 or 4 decades because of the fact that the banks only make money by lending money. They always want to print more money. Otherwise, they don't make money. So in doing that, they're encouraging people to take on more debt. And it only works, the Ponzi scheme only works until you can no longer get someone else to take even more debt than you were in. And then it crashes. Now, some of my friends say to me, Marcus, my real estate portfolio, it's not all about the rising asset value, it's also about cash flow. Now, what a lot of these people forget to realise is that in a correction, which could be started by a number of different factors, if you've got a house and you're getting $600 a week in rent for it, and you have a correction, and a very similar house next door owned by somebody else, they go bankrupt, the bank sells the house, they get half as much as what it was paid for in the peak, which is the same time that you purchased it for, and they sell that to a new owner, which might be another investor. Now that investor can afford to rent that house out for $300 a week, and your renters in your house see that and decide that they're going to move next door because it's half the rent of your place. So you're then stuck with not being able to find a tenant for your property, you've overpaid for it, and you've got 5 of them. What's going to happen to you? You're going to go bankrupt. And even though you may have owned that portfolio for 15 years, you've wasted it. You've wasted all that time, and you've got to know when to get in and when to get out. And now is the time to get out. Even if it goes up a little bit more in the next year or so, it's going to eventually crash anyway and take everything away with it. Just like a tsunami, the water leaves, you should get out of the way. You shouldn't be walking into the ocean where the water used to be, because it's going to come back with a vengeance and it's going to take you out. So ultimately, we have a housing bubble caused by people believing the property is an investment when it is a consumption asset, always has been, always will be. The pundits who push this are the banks, the building companies, that everyone makes money out of it who's supplying that particular segment of the economy. And ultimately, the suckers, the ones who lose, are going to be the ones who purchased that house in the first place. I'm Marcus Denning. Thanks for watching.